me this opportunity. It's been a long time, and it gave me a lot of time to prepare as well, and read Srimad Bhagavatam after a long time. Today we are going to discuss Canto 7, Chapter 15 from Sloka 21. Canto 7 is very special for a lot of people, including me, because there is Prahlad story, Hiranyakashipu story. And the last few chapters are very instructive to all of us. And those should be read many, many times, especially from chapter 11, which is going to talk about the perfect society of 4 classes, and then 4 spiritual classes, so 4 social classes. Chapter 13, the behavior of a perfect person, ideal family life, instructions for civilized human beings, which is chapter 15. And a lot of instructions are given to all of us, especially Grihastas. And it's a wonderful chapter. And then slokas are there in these chapters. And previously, we have been reading this, and I heard some of the classes, and wonderfully explained by the previous preachers. So I'm going to briefly touch base and refresh our memories, and then go to the actual class instructed to be given by me. So before that, we'll do a small bhajan and prayer. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yashodanandana
Fatima, 10 rupees. 10 rupees.
Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Radha Kunja Bihari Radhe Jaya Radha Nil Madhav Radha Nil Madhav Radha Jaya Radha Madhav
Right,
Radha
sir.
Madhav Jaya Radha Gopi Vallabha Radha Jaya Radha Jaya Shri Radha
जवान गुणी अति चतुर राम कच करबे को आतुर प्रभु
Jaya
चरित्र सन बिन
Jaya
सिया राम रख सीता मुख से
Jaya
सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियाई दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरब भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के कच संहारे लाए संजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुवीर हर्ष उर लाए रघुपति किन्हीं बहुत बड़ाई तुम्हारी
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Hare Krishna. I'm trying to share my screen. Hare Krishna. Can you see my screen?
Not yet, Prabhu.
Not yet. Okay, let me.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु दंडवत प्रणाम
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. I'm trying to share my screen, Prabhuji. Show my screen.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yeah, here, but you can re-join maybe. That helps. Don't know. I mean, for your screen sharing.
Yeah, Mac, right? I'm trying to figure out how to do this. 1 second. Two. It's not allowing me to share. Okay. Let me start with prayers and then I'll figure out how to do this. Ekkada? See here. It's desktop 2. I have to
If you
share.
want, I can share, Prabhu. Yes, that is.
No, Mataji, 1 second. We're figuring it.
Where is your main screen? Here is
Yeah,
it.
2. I want to share 2.
How do I go here?
Oh, here. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Allow Zoom.
Yes. System change.
Oh, enable here.
Put your thumb finger.
Quit and reopen.
Yes, Prabhu, we can see your screen now.
Yes, Mataji. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya.
సారీ టు ఇంటరప్ట్ ఇది ఆఫీస్ మన ఏమంది స్లాగ్ కనిపిస్తుంది.
Again, Krishna, you are not able to see prayers?
Kanna,
No, no,
నో
Prabhu.
ప్రభు,
You are
స్లాగ్
also-
ఛానల్ అని పడుతుంది.
you're sharing that screen.
Okay. Which one I should share?
Put it there. Drag it there.
Two I have to share.
Mm.
Prabhu, now you can see?
నో,
Screen 2. Should we
No.
share? Okay, now
You
maybe
should
here.
minimize this one, Prabhuji.
Then
The-
it-
Yeah,
నో
now
నో
we can see.
Okay.
నో ఓకే ప్రభు.
Sorry,
You
Prabhu.
continue.
This is first time I'm doing on my Mac from my office, so it's new to me.
Now we the design mode, not the full screen.
Yes,
That's
yes, I'll do full screen. Now, Prabhu?
perfect.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Sorry, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. First time I'm doing on my Mac, so I never did it. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ఓం నమో భగవతే వాసుదేవాయ.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ఓం నమో భగవతే వాసుదేవాయ.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ఓం నమో భగవతే వాసుదేవాయ.
You can pray together. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Uttamam Devim Saraswati Ashtapraya Bhadreshu Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtikhi Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namah Pankajanabhaya Namah Pankajamaline Namah Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangre Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishaya Namaha Namo Brahmanyaya Devaya Go Brahmanitaya Cha Jagadhitaya Krishnaya Govindaya namo namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langhete Girim Petkuratam Hamandim Sri Gurum Dinataranam Sri Paramanandamaram Sri Chaitanyeshwaram Mopoitra Poitra Vasarvavastangatopiva Vismaret Pundarikaksham Sabahya Abhyantaram Suchi Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, can you see my screen? Srimad Bhagavatam page 115.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, yes.
Hare Krishna.
So can you turn on the camera, Prabhu? Your camera is off.
How come? Just now it's fine.
Video is off.
Yeah. I'm looking into it. Automatically switching off. Okay, now you can see me, bro.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. So Srimad Bhagavatam, we are in 7th canto, chapter 15, which is the last chapter. And as I mentioned before, 7th canto is a very, very significant canto where we talk about Shuddha Bhakti. And Prahlad Maharaj Shuddha Bhakti throughout the canto. And in the last few chapters are prescriptive guidance for Grihasthas, ideal Grihastha life, how to lead our lives. Very, very nicely written by Vedavyasa. The behavior of a perfect person, ideal family life, instructions for civilized human beings. How nicely Prabhupada has kept the titles for these chapters. So it is a canto that you should keep next to your desk and keep reading. As you know, Srimad Bhagavatam is described as the entire body of Lord Sri Krishna, especially 7th and 8th cantos are arms of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, and especially 7th canto is called Uti. It describes Uti. What is Uti? Uti means inclination. There are two kinds of inclination that 7th canto describes. One inclination is an auspicious inclination towards the Lord, and second one is inauspicious inclination towards the Lord. What is the example of an auspicious inclination? Prahlad Maharaj in the womb being instructed by Narad Muni is an auspicious inclination. Whereas Jaya Vijaya being cursed by 4 Kumaras and being born as Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu in one of their births is an inauspicious inclination towards the Lord. And 7th canto describes majoritarily up to up to the last few chapters, Shuddha Bhakti. Shuddha Bhakti by pure devotee Prahlad. And then the last few chapters describes mixed bhakti, Mishra Bhakti. What kind of Mishra Bhakti? Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Both of them is described in 7th canto. And 7th canto is a conversation between Yudhishthira Maharaj and Narad Muni, where in the Rajasi Yajna. The Rajasi Yajna, Yudhishthira Maharaj asks a lot of questions to Narad Muni. After seeing Shishupala being killed by Lord Krishna, he sees Shishupala being merged into Lord, or being given the boon of going to Vaikuntha. He asks, how come? Shishupala is such an envious person, and he chastised Krishna many times, and still with the greed and envy he has, how did it happen? Right? And that is a discussion the entire 7th canto is about, right? And especially 7.15, the 15th chapter is about conquering anarthas. And this is the best chapter for me, people like me, right? And this is very nicely described sloka by sloka on how to conquer anarthas throughout our life. Guidance is given to all of us, right? So that's where we're going to start. Shloka 21. I think up to 20, the previous classes it was covered. So today we're going to start with Shloka 21. So I will start with translation purport, and later on I'll invite all of you to come and read it. Hare Krishna. Chapter 7, Canto 7, Chapter 15, Shloka 21. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. O King Yudhishthira, many persons with varied experience, many legal advisors, many learned scholars, and many persons eligible to become presidents of learned assemblies fall down into hellish life because of not being satisfied with their positions. Purport. For spiritual advancement, one should be materially satisfied. For if one is not materially satisfied, his greed for material development will result in frustration of spiritual advancement. There are two things that nullify all good qualities. One is poverty. Daridra dosho guna rasi nasi. If one is poverty-stricken, all his good qualities become null and void. Similarly, if one becomes too greedy, his good qualities are lost. Therefore, the adjustment is that one should not be poverty-stricken, but one must try to be fully satisfied with the bare necessities of life and not be greedy. For a devotee to be satisfied with bare necessities is therefore the best advice for spiritual advancement. Learned authorities in devotional life consequently advise that one not endeavor to increase the number of temples and mathas. Such activities can be undertaken only by devotees experienced in propagating the Krishna conscious movement. All the acharyas in South India, especially Sri Ramanujacharya, constructed many big temples, and in North India, all Goswamis of Vrindavana constructed large temples. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura also constructed large centers known as Gaudiya Mathas. Therefore, temple construction is not bad, provided proper care is taken for propagation of Krishna consciousness. Even if such endeavors are considered greedy, the greed is to satisfy Krishna, and therefore these are spiritual qualities. Hare Krishna. So in this sloka, Prabhupada is explaining about being satisfied and being content, which is very important in a spiritual life. And two things are very clearly called out. There are two extremes of a pendulum. One is being too, poverty-stricken, not having anything in your life, and one is too opulent and too much money, too much opulence, and too many things, properties. Both of them will make good qualities null and void, right? We are not saying, Prabhupada, the purport is not saying they will not have good qualities. People who are poor also might have good qualities, but those good qualities are null and void for a poor person because he cannot apply those, good qualities anywhere. For example, he wants to give money, in a philanthropic way. He wants to help others, but he cannot do it because he doesn't have that money. On the other side, person who has too much money becomes too greedy and he doesn't want to even give anything to anyone. So the good qualities become null and void in both sides of the pendulum. But what Prabhupada is advising all of us is to be in the middle of the pendulum, which is being content with what you have. Don't be too greedy, because all your good qualifications will be lost, right? So what should we do? We should be satisfied and content with the bare necessities, minimum things to run your family, minimum things to take care of your family, and not endeavor too much, because what will happen? They'll cause anxiety to you. They'll cause tension to you, right? So that's what he's telling. And that is why, in Bhagavad Gita, it is explained that when somebody, when a sadhu has not finished he has not finished what he's supposed to do in a life, next birth, Krishna guarantees and ensures that he is born in an opulent family or in a Brahmana family, so that he can start his spiritual life without thinking about bare necessities, right? If somebody is very poor and not have food to eat, how can he be in spiritual consciousness? He cannot, right? First of all, he should take care of minimum things like having a shelter, having food to eat. Only then he can come and sit in a class. Otherwise, it's not possible. So Krishna ensures that if somebody is, starts the spiritual path and somehow could not finish it in one life, he will guarantee us that, he will make sure that he gets the next birth into one of these families so that he can start his life in a nice way, right? This is very, very important. And that's one thing he is very much calling out. And what will happen with even if you do a smallest endeavor in this path, trayato mahato bhayat, right? Salpam apes dharmasya. So that is why, even an endeavoring smallest thing in spiritual path is very, very useful, because you are guaranteed that you will continue this path, which is very important. You can start and then you can continue, right? In 2.4, in Bhagavad Gita, it is described that, and 6.41, 6.42, it is described that you will take birth in an opulent family. That is the first part of this purport. The second part of the purport is talking about building temples and places of worship with greed, right? Also doesn't help, right? Only authorized and experienced people should build temples. There is a normal kind of greed and for position, right? A lot of people, materialistic people, try to build temples. You will see that, they'll try to occupy a place in the middle of the road and try to build a temple, or try to become the dharmakarta of a temple for position, right? Not for propagating any, good things in the society. They're more worried about their position as a president of the temple, right? And getting fame and name, right? That is not going to help them, right? That is again in a burden, right? And it will not go very well. But what Prabhupada is giving examples is, Sri Ramanujacharya building so many big temples in South India, and all the Goswamis of Vrindavan building big temples in North India. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur building Gaudiya Mathas all over the place. These are all good things because they are doing it for Krishna. The greed there is for Krishna, right? And that becomes spiritual. We should be very careful when we do such activities and for whom we are doing it. What is the purpose of that? And the greed in spiritual life is needed. But for what? To please Krishna, to please devotees, to please spiritual master, but not for oneself. That is very big. And that is why the translation Prabhupada is telling many legal advisors, learned scholars, and eligible presidents have fallen down because they're not satisfied with their positions. Once they get the position of a temple, they want to be, an officer for multiple temples. Then they want to be an endowment officer. Then they want to be the minister of endowments. Like that, they keep being greedy for more and more positions, and they're never satisfied. And Krishna is not in the agenda for them. It is more of their fame and name. So it's very, very important on how to be satisfied and content for progress in spiritual path. Hare Krishna. Let's go to the next sloka. Can somebody read the translation, please?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, please.
Translations and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: by making plans with determination, one should give up lusty desires for sense gratification. Similarly, by giving up envy, one should conquer anger. By discussing the disadvantages of accumulating wealth, one should give up greed, and by discussing the truth, one should give up fear.
Yeah. Can somebody read the purport, please?
Should I continue? Or
Anybody else who wants to read purport?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Mataji, please read the purport.
Translation. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has suggested how one can conquer lusty desires for sense gratification. One can't give up thinking of women, for thinking in this way is natural. Even while walking on the street, one will see so many women. However, if one is determined not to live with a woman, even while seeing a woman, he will not become lusty. If one is determined not to have sex, he can automatically conquer lusty desires. The example given in this regard is that even if one is hungry, if on a particular day he is determined to observe fasting, he can naturally conquer the disturbances of hunger and thirst. If one is determined not to be envious of anyone, he can naturally conquer anger. Similarly, one can give up the desire to accumulate wealth simply by considering how difficult it is to protect the money in one's possession. If one keeps a large amount of cash with him, he is always anxious about keeping it properly. Thus, if one discusses the disadvantages of accumulating wealth, he can naturally give up business without difficulty. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, reading it. So, in this specific verse, Prabhupada is discussing how to conquer different anarthas. The first anartha is talking about is lust. Okay, and he says the key word that he used to conquer lust is determination, dhrudha vrata. By having determination, you can conquer lust, right? How, for example, when for conquering lusty desires, you have to be determined. Even while walking on the street, you will see a lot of women. But if you're determined not to live with a woman, like brahmacharis, right? All the brahmacharis took a vow of celibacy. That means they will stay in the temple, they will serve the spiritual master, they serve the duties of the temple. And even with a lot of things going around them, right? They will see women in the temple coming in different kinds of attires. They will go when they're going on the street to serve, do a class, they will see women. But because of the determination of not, living with a woman, they will conquer the lust. They will never, feel that lust because they have determined. And determination comes from your spiritual journey, your spiritual strength that is given by sadhana, right? The determination, and if one is determined not to have sex, he can automatically conquer lusty desires. This is the most important thing. And brahmacharis and sannyasis have determined that they will serve the Guru and Krishna with their mind, soul, and heart. Because of determination, they could conquer this, even with so many distractions happening, right? Another example of determination is conquering hunger. Hunger is very, very difficult to conquer, right? Think about, Ekadashi. But if you are determined not to eat, even you are hungry. Today is Ekadashi. I want to do Ekadashi Vrata today and not by fasting. Right? Once you're determined, automatically your hunger will go away because you are controlling your mind by saying that today is Ekadashi, I'm going to chant more rounds, I'm going to do a lot of service. And today, I'm going to do that. And with the determination, hunger automatically, the disturbance of hunger will go away, and thirst, right? So that's important. So the word for lust, right, is determination. If you're determined to do that, to not to do something like being attached to women or not to have food on an Ekadashi, you can conquer that. And that determination comes from sadhana, the mercy of your spiritual master, and being in association and reading scriptures like this. All those things help with the determination. Okay. And second thing is talking about is envy, right? Anger. How to conquer anger? How to conquer anger? If you give up envy, you can conquer anger, right? How do you give up envy? By praising people, right? Typically what happens, especially in spiritual life, we're all teaching and we're all doing good things across. Sometimes envy comes up. Okay, that person is doing much better than me. He is getting more people, he's doing a big program than me. And how do you conquer that? It is told in one of the purports that you should praise them. You should really praise them loud and clear. Every time you see them, you should praise them. You should think that they're doing the service for Krishna and you are doing service for Krishna too, right? And materialistically, of course, the same thing applies. But especially for us, we can conquer anger by giving up envy, and that can happen if you can praise people for their good things they're doing, right? And third thing is greed. How can you conquer greed? By considering that accumulating wealth is a nuisance, right? It gives you a lot of tension, anxiousness, because the more properties you have to take care of all of them. Something will happen. You have an apartment you are having, the maintenance is a problem, the tenant is a problem, property taxes is a problem, the GBM, the AGM of the community makes so many rules, they'll ask you more money. All these are like nuisance, unnecessary distractions for you. And the more money you keep with you, the more greed. The more money you keep, the more tensions you have. So how do you get rid of the greed? By considering all these problems and keeping only minimal what is needed, right? Is always then you can get rid of that anxiety and the tension. and you should discuss the pros and cons of accumulating wealth with oneself. And without any difficulty, you can really conquer this greed. Right? These are the formulas that are given by Prabhupada and Vyasadeva in this purport, and how we can conquer. First, how can conquer lusty desires? By determination. Then how you can conquer anger? By giving up, by not being envious of others. Third, greed, by talking about the problems that come with wealth. Right? You can conquer all these things in this purport. Text 23. Can somebody read text 23 translation, please?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. By discussing spiritual knowledge, one can conquer lamentation and illusion. By serving a great devotee, one can become prideless. By keeping silent, one can avoid obstacles on the path of mystic yoga. And simply by stopping sense gratification, one can conquer envy. Purport. If one's son has died, one may certainly be affected by lamentation and illusion and cry for the dead son, but one may overcome lamentation and illusion by considering the verses of Bhagavad Gita. Jatasya hridruvam mrityurdruvam janmamritasya sa. As the sun transmigrates, one has taken birth, must give up the present body, and then he must certainly accept another body. This should be no cause for lamentation. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, Dhiras tatrana muhyati, one who is dhira or sober, who is learned in philosophy and established in knowledge, cannot be unhappy over the transmigration of the soul. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So how the fourth one that is that we need to conquer is fear, right? Fear, and that causes lamentation and illusion. What is the greatest fear that we all have, Prabhuji Matajis? What is the greatest fear that we all have?
Death.
Hare Krishna. So death is the highest fear that we all have. And how can we conquer the fear of death and the lamentation illusion comes with that? By having spiritual knowledge. What kind of spiritual knowledge? The spiritual knowledge that tells that this body is temporary and the soul is eternal, right? That is how, by discussing the truth of the body and soul, we can conquer the fear and the lamentation illusion that comes with that. Then the second thing is pride, right? How can you conquer pride? By serving great devotees. All of us, are in big positions. We are working in big companies, in good positions. Sometimes, many times, we get pride that, hey, I'm working in this company, I'm doing so and so and so and so and so. And the pride can go away very easily when we serve the devotees. When Maharajas come, when Prabhujis like Radhesham Prabhu comes, when Chaitanya Charan Prabhu comes, Gauranga Darshan Prabhu comes, when you serve them and you see them serving the Lord, leaving everything, you can get rid of your pride, right? Look at all of them, right? All of them are from IITs. They have studied in big colleges. They have secured, gold medals. They have the first in their class, and they left everything and started serving the Lord. And they're using their intelligence. You can see Prabhuji's Maharaj, how intelligent are they, right? Each one are expert in their areas. For example, if you want to read something in Srimad Bhagavatam, immediately I go to Gauranga Darshan Prabhuji's videos, because he explains it so well. If I want answers to any questions that come along, immediately we run to the Spiritual Scientist website and refer to Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji's words and his explanations. In general, if you want to get more encouragement, for doing your japa and normal things, I run to read Radhesham Prabhuji's lectures. Like this, everyone is so intellectual and intelligent materialistically, and then they're using their intelligence in serving the Lord. And your pride can easily go away by seeing them serving the Lord, and how they're utilizing their intelligence, and how they're progressing in a spiritual path. So by serving great devotees, that's why when they come, attending their classes, helping them, take them, to serve them in any way we can, right? Providing prasadam to them, taking them to different classes, taking their association, all these are important. Serving great devotees, really helps to get rid of your pride, right? And then if you want to get rid of the obstacles in your yoga path, then keeping silence is very, very important. Like this is more of, mystic yoga path where Krishna describes to get to Lord, yoga path is another path, right? Yoga means to unite soul to the super soul. In that path, if you want to go and do well, the best way is to keeping silence, right? You should not be distracted doing gossiping and all the stuff, right? That's what it means. You always should talk about Lord or just keep silent. That's very important. So to avoid these obstacles, keeping silence is very, very important. And envy and violence. What can we do to get rid of envy and violence? To give up sense gratification, right? So that is the second part he talks about in the next sloka. But in this sloka specifically, he talks about getting rid of fear by knowing the knowledge, the spiritual knowledge, which we already have, and applying it to ourselves. When some problem happens in our life, when something very drastic happens, understand that body is temporary, soul is permanent, and the soul transmigrates from one body to another. By doing this, dhiras tatra muhyati, a sober person does not lament, which is very clearly described. So this is how we can get rid of the fear. Text 24. Can somebody read the purport, please? Sorry, translation, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
No problem. Translation. Purport also, Prabhu?
Yeah, first read the translation, Prabhu.
Yeah.
This is the purport.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. By good behavior and freedom from envy, one should counteract sufferings due to other living entities. By meditation in trance, one should counteract sufferings due to providence. And by practicing Hatha Yoga, Pranayama, and so forth, one should counteract sufferings due to the body and mind. Similarly, by developing the mode of goodness, especially in regard to eating, one should conquer sleep. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Can somebody read the purport, please?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Purport. By practice, one should avoid eating in such a way that the other living entities will be disturbed and suffer. Since I suffer when pinched or killed by others, I should not attempt to pinch or kill any other living entity. People do not know that because of killing innocent animals, they themselves will have to suffer severe reactions from material nature. Any country where people indulge in unnecessary killing of animals will have to suffer from wars and pestilence imposed by material nature. Comparing one's own suffering to the suffering of others, therefore, one should be kind to all living entities. One cannot avoid the sufferings inflicted by providence, and therefore, when suffering comes, one should fully absorb oneself in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. One can avoid sufferings from the body and mind by practicing mystic Hatha Yoga. Hare Krishna.
So in this shloka specifically, the sufferings, how to get rid of sufferings is explained. What is the first one? The first one is suffering from others. In others and how? Especially, we should not cause any harm to other living beings, right? And this is specifically talking about meat eating here, right? Just like when somebody, causes a problem to me, right? Just like how I suffer when somebody causes a problem to me, other living beings also suffer, right? We should not pinch or kill any other living entity. We should be having Jivadaya. And a lot of people don't know this. This is the biggest problem, right? When they come to our classes and SSR, we talk about Jivadaya. And we tell that, you should stop meat eating. And why? Because that gives you karma bandhana, and it is not right to do. And then the next janma, you will be born as that animal, and that animal will have the right to kill you too. And it goes on and on. And especially there is a big, purport there and why we should not do it and what is the thing. And generally, we should think that we should be merciful to others, right? Other living beings, because we suffer from the reactions, severe reactions, material nature. And Prabhupada says any country, that has this severely, indulged into slaughterhouses, killing animals, and indulging all these things, they will suffer violently. How? They will suffer from wars. They will suffer from, a lot of, lot of problems caused by the nature, like, tornadoes, tufans, problems in the country, having problems in the country inflicted by the leaders, a lot of unnatural things that happen, right? This is the wrath of the nature that happens when you do this, right? So we should compare our sufferings inflicted by others and should not do to the other living beings, right? That is one thing very clearly it is told. By being merciful to other living beings, we can avoid sufferings by other living beings. Second, suffering from providence. Providence means whatever, destiny, whatever happens in a particular current age, time, circumstance. A war might erupt, or problem with, prices, inflation, some things not being available, tariffs by Trump, right? A lot of people are suffering in US because there are so many things happening there. Every price is skyrocketing, and Trump is putting a lot of tariffs. And how do we avoid the suffering? By thinking that these are all temporary, and this is the nature of the place, right? In this material world is inflicted with problems, and these keep happening. And we should be transcendental and above all these problems, right? There is nothing you can do about it. It's because of it's caused by different leaders, and they are temporary, they'll come and go, but we should keep a strong faith in the Lord and keep our chanting, keep our association, keep the faith in the Lord, right? And this is the nature of the place, right? And we should just absorb ourselves in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. We should just continue doing what we are doing, right? And not inflicted by those kind of things. Not inflicted by those kind of things, right? So Chetan Charan Prabhu recently wrote an article about tariffs of Trump and published in LinkedIn. I strongly advise all of you to go read it. And he mentions that these are all natural that can happen in this world, and we should raise above all these things, knowing that these are all temporary and these problems can happen anytime, and keep ourselves to that. There is always an area of influence and an area of concern. There are a lot of things that happen in the world that concern us, but there is nothing we can do about it. In some places we can do something about it, like the next time we should be very conscious on who we vote, right? That is very important. We should use our whatever is available to us, making sure that we elect the right candidates, right? The right leaders, right? So but once we are in a situation, we just deal with it, in a very calm and in a composed way, and this too shall pass, right? That is the way to deal with it, right? And sufferings from body and mind, right? How do you conquer those? You conquer those with yoga, right? Yoga, kind of hatha yoga, with pranayama, these kind of things. That is why it's very important to keep our body in a very good condition so that we can continue our spiritual life, right? Sharira madhyam khalu dharma sadhanam. Only you can do dharma and these activities if you are in good health. So at least you should spend some time in a day to keep yourself in a good health, like walking or doing something like that. It's very important. Otherwise, if you don't keep good health, you cannot serve the devotees, you cannot serve the congregation, you cannot continue doing these things if you yourself are not if myself I'm not happy and I'm not healthy. So we should keep some time to keep ourselves healthy body and healthy mind. Both are very important, right? So we should doing yoga, it can help with both mind and body, right? That's what Krishna says, right? The Ashtanga yoga is meant to keep the body and mind both healthy. So you should follow those techniques to control your mind and keep your body healthy. Hare Krishna. Text 25. Can somebody read the translation, please? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I'll read.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Translation and purport by Prabhupada ki jai. I have to read purport, Prabhu.
Translation, Prabhuji.
Yeah. One must conquer the modes of the passion and ignorance by developing the modes of goodness, and then one must become detached from the modes of goodness by promoting oneself to the platform of Suddha Sattva. All this can be automatically done if one engages in the service of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. In this way, one can conquer the influence of the modes of nature.
Hare Krishna. Can somebody read
Purport?
no, wherever Nadudam Prabhu. Somebody else want to read purport?
Prabhuji, can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Purport. Just by treating the root cause of an ailment, one can conquer all bodily pains and sufferings. Similarly, if one is devoted and faithful to the spiritual master, he can conquer the influence of Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, and Tama Guna very easily. Yogis and jnanis practice in many ways to conquer the senses, but the bhakta immediately attains the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the mercy of the spiritual master. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. If the spiritual master is favorably inclined, one naturally receives the mercy of the Supreme Lord, and by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, one immediately becomes transcendental, conquering all the influences of Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, and Tama Guna within this material world. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Sa Gunan Samatityayan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. If one is a pure devotee acting under the directions of the Guru, one easily gets the mercy of the Supreme Lord and thus becomes immediately situated on the transcendental platform. This is explained in the next verse. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So, from this verse onwards, it's Prabhupada is describing the importance of spiritual master, right? How if we take shelter of spiritual master, it will help us continue very strongly in our spiritual path. And it starts with getting into the mode of goodness, right? One must conquer the modes of passion and ignorance by developing mode of goodness. So how do you conquer the passion and ignorance? By being in the mode of goodness. And then that is not enough. You should raise to the mode of Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness, by, you should strive to promote yourself to Shuddha Sattva, right? How this can happen? How to transcend above the modes? Krishna told in Bhagavad Gita that Sagunan Samati Ityatan Brahma Bhutaya Kalpate, right? He said, so he talks about all the three modes, and Arjuna asks, like, what should I do now? He says, transcend above all the three modes, right? And be in the Brahman plane, right? And how does this happen? This happens with the mercy of spiritual master. When you take shelter of spiritual master, automatically you will go in the path of goodness and pure goodness. Yogis and jnanis practice in many ways to conquer the senses, but bhakta immediately attains the mercy of Supreme Lord. So the path of yogi and jnani is very, very tough, right? For them, it takes millions and millions of births to attain Krishna and be steady in this path, because those paths are very, very difficult to attain. But for a devotee, a bhakta, it's very easy. Why? Because when he takes the shelter of spiritual master, the spiritual master is the via media for him to receive the mercy of the Supreme Lord, right? And the mercy of Supreme Lord immediately becomes transcendental, conquering all the modes. This is the secret of becoming bhakta. And that is why Krishna also mentions in Bhagavad Gita that the bhakti yoga is the topmost yoga, rather, of all yogas, right? And it's easy and difficult at the same time. Easy because once you're determined and have the mercy of spiritual master, it automatically happens. But it is not cheap. You have to have austerity, you have to have association, you have to have, a lot of rules and regulations to endeavor in the path of bhakti, right? So that's why a devotee under the direction of Guru can easily attain the mercy of Supreme Lord. So Srila Prabhupada said that all of us, including me, have no qualifications to go back to Krishna. But only because of his mercy, he can take us through the back door, right? this is what it is. Having to ask for the need of a shelter of a spiritual master is very important, and then choosing a spiritual master is very important. Taking his shelter is very important. That's why all of us should endeavor very strongly to have a spiritual master, because he will take care of us. He will take the charge of taking us back to Godhead, and by following his instructions through Vapu and Vani, right? By listening to his lectures, by following his instructions, you all automatically get rid of all the sufferings, and you can automatically go above and Rajo and Tamoguna towards Satoguna and Suddha Satoguna, right? That is what is explained in this shloka. So the importance of spiritual master is very, very important, right? The importance of spiritual master is described very, very well in this shloka. Let's go to text 26. Can somebody read the translation, please?
Can I read, Prabhu?
Yes,
26?
please.
Hare Krishna. 26th sloka, translation by Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The spiritual master should be considered to be directly the Supreme Lord because he gives transcendental knowledge for enlightenment. Consequently, for one who maintains the material conception that the spiritual master is an ordinary human being, everything is frustrated. His enlightenment and his Vedic studies and knowledge are like the bathing of an elephant.
Hare Krishna.
Continue
Can somebody else read the purport? Maybe we should give a chance to somebody else.
Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Purport. It is recommended that one honor the spiritual master as being as on an equal status with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Saksha Daritvena Samasta Sastra. This is enjoined in every scripture. Acharyamam Vijayantya. One should consider the Acharya to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In spite of all these instructions, if one considers the spiritual master an ordinary human being, one is doomed. His study of the Vedas and his austerities and penances for enlightenment are useless, like the bathing of an elephant. An elephant bathes in a lake quite thoroughly, but as soon as it comes on the shore, it takes some dust from the ground and strews it over its body. Thus, there is no meaning to the elephant's bath. One may argue by saying that since the spiritual master's relatives and the men of his neighborhood consider him an ordinary human being, what is the fault on the part of the disciple who considers the spiritual master an ordinary human being? This will be answered in the next verse. But the injunction is that the spiritual master should never be considered an ordinary man. One should strictly adhere to the instructions of the spiritual master. For if he is pleased, certainly the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada yasya prasada na gati kutopi. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Mataji. So this verse is continuing the significance of spiritual master, right? The spiritual master should be considered directly the Supreme Lord because he gives the knowledge. Like for a disciple, spiritual master should be equivalent to the Lord, right? When we serve him, when we do our puja to him, we should consider him to be the Lord because he is the direct connection for us to the Lord, right? But the spiritual master should not consider himself to be Lord, right? But for the devotee, for the disciples, he should be served as a Lord, right? And sometimes some other disciples think him like an ordinary human being, which is not correct. And that can happen with familiarity. That's why familiarity is very, 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 very problematic. We should not, thinking that we are very familiar with a spiritual master or Siksha Guru. And that will really make us think that, he's an ordinary human being. But all the spiritual masters are not ordinary human beings. They are sent by the Lord into this world to help all of us. And they have taken a vow and they have a purpose in their life, and not to have any properties, not to be attached to anything. And they're just roaming around all the places to give the knowledge. Their only aim in the life is to distribute the knowledge and uplift all of us to the higher path, right? That is why the spiritual master's position is very, very high. if we feel that familiarity and think that, spiritual master is a normal human being, it is like taking an elephant bath. An elephant takes bath in a lake very, very nicely, it seems, and then it just cleans up very well. It takes bath for a long time, actually. And then what happens, the moment it comes out, it puts dust on its top of the body, which is like, completely useless. All the bath it took for hours together is useless. So that is why familiarity with spiritual master and considering him as an ordinary human being is very, very dangerous. We should always avoid that. And other people might think like that, like the relatives or friends of the spiritual master might think like that, but disciple should never ever think like that and feel like that. Otherwise, that kind of fault will make the disciple fall down, right? And the injunctions or the prescriptions or the directions given by spiritual master should never be taken lightly. If you ask for instruction, you better follow it, or you should just generally seek his guidance through his lectures and then follow those things. That's why it is described, right? Spiritual master is Sakshat Haritvena Samaksha Sastre. He is Sakshat Hari. He is Sakshat Narayan, right? And then only because of his mercy, you will get to the higher positions. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadan na gati kutopi. There is no gati unless until he gives the mercy to us. If you think the Supreme Personality of Godhead has powerhouse, it generates power, you cannot directly put a wire to the powerhouse, right? You need a transformer, you need a plug, a socket where you can get power to burn an in a small bulb, right? Otherwise, a small bulb will immediately get burnt if you directly take power from like 22,000 volts. It has to go through a sub-down transformer, 440-volt transformer, and then a 230-volt power is given to the house. Only then you can get it. So a spiritual master is the one that helps with this. So the need and then the way we serve the spiritual master, the way we consider spiritual master is very, very important. We should be very careful in that respect, is what this with verse is telling us. Let's go to the next verse. Can somebody read the translation?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Can I read?
Yes.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is the master of living entities and the material nature. His lotus sought achieved by the great saintly persons like Vyasa. Yes. Nonetheless, there are fools who consider Lord Krishna as an ordinary human being.
Yeah. Can somebody read the purport, please?
Can I read again, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. The example of Lord Krishna as being the Supreme Personality of Godhead is appropriate in regard to the understanding of the spiritual master. The spiritual master is called Sevaka Bhagavan, the servitor personality of Godhead, and Krishna is called Sevya Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is to be worshipped. The spiritual master is the worshipper God, whereas the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is worshipable God. This is the difference between spiritual master and Supreme Personality of Godhead. Another point, Bhagavad Gita, which constitutes the instructions of Supreme Personality of Godhead, is presented by the spiritual master as it is, without deviation. Therefore, the absolute truth is present in the spiritual master. As clearly stated in the text 26, Jnana Deepa Prade, text 26, Jnana Deepa Prade. The Supreme Personality of Godhead gives real knowledge to the entire world, and the spiritual master, as a representative of Supreme Godhead, carries the message throughout the world. Therefore, on the absolute power form, there is no difference between the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If someone considers the Supreme Personality, Krishna or Lord Ramachandra, to be ordinary human being, this does not mean that the Lord becomes an ordinary human being. Similarly, if the family members of the spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, consider the spiritual master as the ordinary. This doesn't mean, sorry, Supreme Personality of Godhead, consider the spiritual master an ordinary human being. This does not mean that he becomes an ordinary human being. The spiritual master is as good as Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore one who is very serious about spiritual advancement must regard the spiritual master in this way. Even a slight deviation from the understanding can create disaster in the disciplic Vedic studies and understanding.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Prabhuji. So, in this sloka specifically, it's been talked about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the difference between spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? So, the difference is the spiritual master is called Sevaka Bhagavan. He's a Sevaka of Bhagavan. He is always worshipping the Bhagavan. Whereas Lord Krishna is Sevya Bhagavan, who is taking the worship, like he's being worshipped, right? That is the difference between spiritual master and Supreme Personality of Godhead. Spiritual master is Sevaka Bhagavan and Krishna is called Sevya Bhagavan. And spiritual master is the worshipper of God, whereas Lord Krishna is the worshipable God, right? He is the worshipper and Krishna is the worshipable, right? Jnanadepa Prade. What is the main quality and quality characteristics of a spiritual master? He is giving the Jnanadepa. He is giving the light. He is going to light up the lamp of Jnana in your heart and remove the nuisance, right? The Supreme Personality of Godhead gives a real knowledge, just like how Lord Krishna gave the knowledge to Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra by giving Bhagavad Gita. The spiritual masters takes the knowledge, understands it, and becomes a Tattvajnani and distributes it throughout the world in a way that we can understand. See, that is the difference between Supreme Personality of Godhead and spiritual master. The spiritual master is a real representative of the Lord. He is sent by the Lord to this loka. He's always liberated, in a liberated state, right? And then he comes here on the order of Supreme Personality of Godhead to distribute the knowledge, to help bring back all the lost souls to the kingdom of God, right? So the biggest aparadha you can make is thinking that spiritual master is real, normal, ordinary human being. Actually, it's been stressed in multiple slokas here that we should really, consider this and really imbibe that in your minds and hearts, that you should never consider spiritual master as an ordinary human being. And the thought will really deviate us from the path and gives us severe reactions. Should be very, very careful when we are dealing with spiritual master, when we are taking the instructions from them, and not to think that he is an ordinary human being. Even if other people, like his relatives, think like that, we should never think like that, right? This has been very much stressed in the last two the slokas, right? We should be very serious. We should be very serious in spiritual advancement by taking the shelter of a spiritual master. And once we take the shelter of a spiritual master, we should take him as a representative of the Lord and take his instructions very seriously and continue in the path without deviation, right? This is very, very important. Let's go to text 28. And one more thing that to really note is we should go and take shelter from bona fide spiritual masters, right? In the parampara. It has been described in many, many cantos, many verses, that there are a lot of gurus in this world, right? So-called guru, self-proclaimed gurus. But the test for a guru is he part of a bona fide parampara? Is he part of one of the four sampradayas? Does he have a guru? Does he quote shastras, right? Does he tell something that is helping us go in the path of spirituality? Or is he telling us something that is convenient to us? It's the distinction that we need to make. And that's why it's important to choose a proper spiritual master. And once we choose and take shelter of him, we should go in the path that is prescribed by him, because there is no difference between him and spiritual master for a disciple, right? Sakshat haritvena Samasta Shastre is very clearly told. Let's go to text 28. Somebody can read the translation, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, please read.
Translation. Text 28. Translation. Ritualistic ceremonies, regulative principles, austerities, and the practice of yoga are all meant to control the senses and mind. But even after one is able to control the senses and mind, if he does not come to the point of meditation upon the Supreme Lord, all such activities are simply labor in frustration. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Can somebody read the purport, please?
Can I read again, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu. Go ahead.
Yes. One may argue that one may achieve the ultimate goal of life, realization of the Supreme Soul, by practicing the yoga system and ritualistic performance according to the basic principles, even without staunch devotion to the spiritual master. The actual fact, however, is that by practicing yoga, one must come to the platform of meditating upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in the scriptures, Dhyana Vastita Tadgatena Manasa Pasyanti Yam Yogina. A person in meditation achieves the perfection of yoga practice when he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By various practices, one may come to the point of controlling the senses, but simply controlling the senses does not bring one to a substantial conclusion. However, by staunch faith in the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one not only controls the senses, but also relays the Supreme Lord. Yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tata garo tasyati katita haridar prakasante mahatmana. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of the Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. Svetasvatara Upanishad 6.23. It is further stated, Tasyayam Sarva Bhutatma Guru Susrusaya and Tarante Anjo Bhavarnavam. Simply by rendering service to the spiritual master, one crosses the ocean of nations and returns home back to Godhead. Thus, he gradually sees the Supreme Lord face to face and enjoy life in association with the Lord. The ultimate goal of yoga is to come in contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless this point is achieved, one's so-called yoga practice is simply labor without any benefit. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for reading this. So, this shloka explains the ritualistic ceremonies and things that can help us mind control and what is the purpose of those and what is that if you don't do which are useless, right? There are a lot of yoga practices in this world. Meditation, transcendental meditation, that meditation. You can control your mind with this practice, that practice, this technique. What Vyasa is telling in this shloka is all are the techniques that can control your mind and senses, right? Whatever it is. If after doing all that, okay, fine, and I could control my mind and senses. After that point, if the mind is not turned towards the Supreme Lord, right? And if the mind and senses are not serving the Supreme Lord, and we are not meditating towards the Lord, they're all useless. They're useless. Just by doing an empty meditation and controlling your senses, like some people can say, oh, I can fast every day, every 1 day and every week without doing anything. Or I can, I can control my senses. I can do this, I can do that. But if there is no Supreme Lord in that meditation, right? If you are not, at the end of the day, if you are not meditating on the Supreme Lord, if you are not utilizing that controlling of senses towards serving the Lord, there are useless labor in frustration, right? So one may argue that realization is super soul, right? There are a lot of people say that I can control my mind by yoga system and some practices, right? But without the devotion to the Lord, those yoga practices are kind of useless, right? If you cannot see Supreme Lord at the end of it, they're just completely futile, Sveteswatara Upanishad says, Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and spiritual master all the imports of the Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. When you can control your mind and senses, and when you can put your mind and faith to the Supreme Lord, only then the Vedic knowledge is revealed to you, right? Otherwise, it is not revealed to you. And also the other way to do that is simply rendering service to the spiritual master, because he will light the Jnana Deepa and remove the nations of Ajnana inside your heart. So whatever so-called yoga people think that they want to do should ultimately conclude the connection between soul and super soul. If yoga is done just for the body health and some kind of calmness in your life, that is not the real yoga. The real yoga means at the end of the real yoga, your mind should be dedicated, mind, soul, and heart should be dedicated to serving the Lord, right? Without that, without having Supreme Lord in the center, in any of the yoga systems, any other practices you do, any other meditations you do, they're all just useless. They're just ritualistic ceremonies, is what is told in this. So it's very important to connect to the Lord and utilize these practices in connecting to the Lord. You're able to do austerities like doing upavasana and ekadashi, but that time should be utilized in doing more rounds, right? More thinking about the Lord, maybe more reading about the Lord, more reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Only then that purpose is properly served. So it's very important, and how you utilize the yoga system towards the Lord. Otherwise, it's not useful. Text 29. Can somebody read the translation, please?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Shall I read?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Translation by S. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. As professional activities or business profits cannot help one in spiritual advancement but are a source of material entanglement, the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies cannot help anyone who is not a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. If one becomes very rich, though his professional activities through trade or through agriculture, this does not mean that he is the spiritually advanced. He is not, he is spiritually advanced. To be spiritually advanced is different from being materially rich, although the purpose of life is to become spiritually rich. Unfortunate men, misguided as they are always engaged in trying to become materially rich. Such material engagements, however, do not help one in the actual fulfillment of the human mission. On the contrary, material engagements lead one to be attracted to many unnecessary necessities, which are accompanied by the risk that one may be born in the degraded condition, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14.18. Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha madhye tishtanti rajasa. Jaganya guna vritti stha adho gachanti tamasa. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. Especially in this Kali Yuga, material advancement means degrading and attraction to many unwanted necessities that create a low mentality. Therefore, Jaganya Guna Vitista, since people are contaminated by the lower qualities, they will lead their next lives either as animals or in the degraded forms of life. Making a show of religion without Krishna consciousness may take one popular in the estimation of unintelligent men, but factually, such a materialistic display of spiritual advancement does not help one at all. It will not prevent one from missing the goal of life. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So in this sloka, it is described that the activities that we do should be giving us spiritual progress, right? If one thinks that one becomes rich by his professional activities to trade or agriculture, but it's just a material progress. There is no spiritual advancement there. But if one uses the wealth that is accumulated by the professional activities for the Lord and also follow spiritual practices, then he is spiritually progressing. A lot of people think that I'm very rich, I'm very famous by doing this trade, that trade, but there is no God in them. There is no connection to the God. That means they are accumulating so much of karma, and based on their karma, they take the birth in the next life, either upper planetary systems, lower planetary systems, or stay back in the in the Earth planet. It is very clearly told in 1418, right? Urdham gachanti satvataha, madhye tishtanti rajasaha, jaganya guna vrittistha adho gachanti tamasaha. If you are in mode of ignorance, not understanding the spiritual injunctions, or not giving any importance to the spiritual activities, you will take birth in the lower planets as animals. If you do a lot of pious activities without Supreme Lord in the middle, right? Lot of charity and all this stuff, you will accumulate some good credits to go up to the upper planets like Indraloka, Chandraloka. But those credits are temporary, just like how you have credit card and then you have some money in there. Once you finish all the money, your bank balance is gone. So when you go there, you finish all the credits, you come back to the Earth planet again. And if you're in the mode of passion, then you are guaranteed to take birth again as a human being, continuing that passionate work, right? So these things will not help you. The only thing that will help you is, to be in the spiritual path, understanding the life, the cycle of life, death and life and death, and how to get out of the cycle. Otherwise, you are continuously going in the cycle of these three planets, right? So you should understand it, very, very important. People think that material advancement is the advancement in Kali Yuga, and that they don't understand is that it's causing a lot of karma bandhana, and they are continuously in this cycle, and they're never are getting out of this. So making a show of religion without Krishna conscious may make one popular, but it's not going to help in the spiritual path, and it will not help them in the goal of life. What is the goal of life? To go back to the Supreme Lord, and then get out of this cycle, right? As I told before, this is temporary, and the kalayam, the kalayam ashashvatam. And our goal should be take the mercy of the Supreme Spiritual Master, through which you get the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And the Lord will take away all the sinful reactions, right? He says, right, mokshishami masucha, take sarvadharman parichante mamekam sharanam raja, aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshishami masucha. He's telling, right, abandon all the varieties of religions, surrender unto me, I'll take away all the sinful actions, and then you can come to me. He's very clearly telling. He's clearly telling in many, many verses that if you take shelter of the Supreme Lord, Name Bhakta Pranashyanti, they will never perish. If you take his shelter, if you always depend on him for everything, he will take care of the devotees. Hare Krishna. Let's go to the last sloka for today and then conclude it. Can somebody read the translation and purport for the last sloka? Hare Krishna Mataji, please.
Can I read?
Yes, Mataji.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. One who desires to conquer the mind must leave the company of his family and live in a solitary place, free from contaminated association. To maintain the body and soul together, he should beg as much as he needs for bare necessities of life. Purport. This is the process for conquering agitation of the mind. One is recommended to take leave of his family and live maintaining his body and soul together by begging alms and eating only as much as needed to keep himself alive. With such a process, one cannot conquer lusty desires. Sannyasa means accepting a life of beginning.
Begging, Mataji. Hare Krishna. I think we lost Mataji. Okay, I'll read. Sannyasa means accepting a life of begging, which makes one automatically very humble and meek and free from lusty desires. In this regard, the following verse appears in Smriti literature. Dvandva hastasya garhastyam dhyana bhangadi karana lakshaitaiva grihi spashtam sanyased avicharayan. In this world of duality, family life is the cause that spoils one's life, spiritual life for or meditation. Specifically understanding this fact, one should accept the order of sannyasa without hesitation. So this is the next order of renunciation, Prabhuji's Matajis, right? Once we have taken Grihastha life, obviously we should take care of our family. But we should take to Vanaprastha and the retirement age. As told by Prabhupada, he said 55 is the retirement age. We should take care of our family, make sure they get good education, take care of everything, and then the wife and husband should take to Vanaprastha. They should reside in a dham, in a temple or someplace, and live with bare minimum necessities and spending time worshiping the Lord all the time, right? But the highest form of all this is taking to sannyasa. What is sannyasa means? You don't have any belongings that you have. You don't own anything, and you beg as much as you want for your bare necessities. There is no money with you. You just go to a place, and then whatever is given to you, you eat. Right? This is the highest process of conquering the mind, agitations of the mind. Right? It is recommended that if when somebody wants to be sannyasa, and this is the order that you need to follow. But the advantage of this is like you are in a fast track going back to Godhead, right? That is why as much as doctors are needed, lawyers are needed, CAs are needed, brahmacharis and sannyasis are also needed in this world to keep the order, right? They are the ones who are roaming around without any return of benefit, asking for any return of benefit, distributing the knowledge to all of us. And they're always roaming around to one grihastha to other grihastha, distributing knowledge, explaining the meaning of life to all of us, and helping us progress in spiritual path, taking the responsibility of a spiritual master, taking the responsibility to take us back to the Godhead, even with all of the anarthas that we have, right? That is the highest order, highest sacrifice they are doing, right? And the reciprocation from Krishna is they are the ones that go to Krishna also very fast. And then they are the ones who are sent by Krishna actually to help all of us, right? So this sloka tells, what is the nature of a sannyasi and what he does. And if somebody is, ready to take this path of sannyasa, this is the way it should be, it will be, right? That will help the person get rid of the lusty desires and go to the path of spirituality very, very easily, right? That's what is explained in this shloka very nicely. So this 10 verses are like things that we should write down on a paper and attach it on a wall on how to conquer anarthas, right? And how to conquer each of the anarthas, what do we do? So to summarize, I'll go through one by one and tell all of you what we have learned, right? Different anarthas and how to get rid of. The first one, lust. How do you conquer lust? Anybody remember? As a memory test for all of you. How do you conquer lust? There is one word I clearly mentioned in the beginning.
Determination, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful, Prabhuji. So the determination, Dhrida Vrata, being determined, is determined to not do anything, right? For example, by being a brahmachari, even though you are having distractions of looking at a lot of women, you are determined not to take association of any women. And that is how you can get rid of your lusty desires. You are determined not to have sex. That is how you can get rid of your lusty desires. That's determination is very important. Also, if you are determined to do upavasa, then hunger will automatically subside. So the determination is very important in conquering lust. Okay, second, anger. Anybody remember how to conquer anger?
By not envious, Prabhu.
Yes, very good. One is by not being envious of anybody, and second is by giving up the object of sense desire. Anger mainly comes because somebody is really looking at something and really wanting to have that. Once they don't get what they want, it can be promotion, it can be like good wife, good husband, whatever, right? Whatever they want to have, if they don't get, they get angry, right? So by giving up the sense desire to get something, and by giving up envy, you can conquer anger. Third, greed. How do you get rid of greed? Anybody remember?
Prabhuji, to be content.
Yeah, to be content with what you have, to be satisfied with what you have, right? And to consider the problems that come with wealth, right? What happens when you have a lot of wealth? You'll get anxiety, tension in life, the problem of maintaining those problems that come with tenants and all this, right? The more properties you have, the more unnecessary tensions you have. So by discussing the problems that come with wealth, and by understanding that it's too much of a burden and not helping me in the spiritual path, you can get rid of greed. And by being content with what you have, right? Whatever bare necessities you have. That is third one. Fourth one, fear. How do you conquer? What is the greatest fear and how do you conquer it? Anybody remember?
Greatest fear is the death by serving a great devotee and
Yeah.
by...
Yeah. So, yes, Mataji, first part is correct, second part is not correct. The greatest fear is death. Second part, right, you can get rid of the fear by, understanding that your suffering is because of your karma. And second thing is that, your body is temporary and soul is eternal, right? You can avoid the lamentation and problems that come with the fear by getting this spiritual knowledge by a spiritual master by understanding that this place is Dukhalaya Shashvatam. We are suffering because of our own karma that came from the past. And by understanding that this body is temporary and it will deteriorate one day. Okay. Fifth one. How can you conquer lamentation and illusion? Again, it's continuation of the same thing by deliberation of the knowledge of matter and spirit. Right. Same thing. You continue. You can stop lamentation and illusion by deliberating that knowledge of body and spirit. Okay. So, sixth one, pride. How do you conquer pride? The answer you told Mataji before is the correct answer for this. Saraswati Mataji, whatever you told.
Serving the devotees.
Hari Bol. So you can conquer pride by serving great devotees. Whenever devotees come, in our association, we should make sure that we serve them. We take association of them, right? And understanding where they're coming from and what kind of austerities they're going through, what kind of things they have left in their life, right? Gives us the comparison between us and them. Where are we and where are them, right? And then you can get rid of our pride, in whatever positions we are. And then you can, seventh one, and then you can get rid of obstacles in your yoga by being silent, right? If you are in the path of getting yoga, by being silent, you can get rid of that, not gossiping and spending time in discussing about the Lord. Eighth one, and how do you get rid of envy and violence? By giving us sense gratification.
By praising.
Yes, sense gratification. Not harming other animals, not harming other living beings, having, jiva daya, and understanding that, if you harm anybody, it will come back to you as karma, right? By giving up sense gratification, you can get rid of envy and violence. Then we talked about three kinds of sufferings. What are the three kinds of sufferings? Suffering from others. And how do you do that? By being merciful to them. Second thing, suffering from providence, right? How do you abstain from that? By meditation, by being very strong in your sadhana, by being very strong in your spiritual sadhana, by meditation, by doing japa, you can abstain, or you can be detached from the sufferings of the providence. And how do you get rid of sufferings from mind and body? Anybody remember?
To connect with the Lord Prabhuji in every aspect.
Yeah, that's called yoga, Mataji. So by doing yoga, you can connect with, you can get rid of sufferings from both mind and body, because yoga is 8 parts, right? There are 8 parts of the yoga, starting from pranayama to samadhi. So there's some parts of the yoga that can help with your body. Being healthy is needed so that you can serve the Lord and his devotees, and you can control your mind in the other parts of the yoga. So by doing yoga, you can control, or you can help conquer sufferings from body and mind. And there's one more thing I missed talking about. You should also conquer sleep. Sleeping too much is also problematic. Sleeping too little also is problematic. You should have good enough sleep so that you are fresh the next day to continue your work and spiritual path, right? And you can control your sleep by your food. You know that? So by having proper nutritious food and proper amounts of food, not eating too much and not eating too less. Too less also causes sleep problems. Too much also causes sleep problems. You should follow Ayurvedic principles of eating early in the evening so that it's digested, so get good sleep. The more late you eat, the body struggles to digest it throughout the night, and then when you get up, you are feeling lethargic, and it's still digesting, you feel so sleepy. So that is the cause of sleepiness. So you can control sleep by eating food the right amount and the right time. That's very important, right? And then you can control the modes of passion and ignorance by increasing your mode of goodness, by taking the shelter of spiritual master. From that sloka onwards, the importance of spiritual master is explained, and by taking the shelter of spiritual master, you can go from a mode of goodness to the mode of pure goodness, to the sattva, and all the obstacles will be cleared by spiritual master. So it's important to take the shelter of spiritual master, and spiritual master, we should understand him like Hari, like Sakshat Haritvena Samasta Shastra. We deal with him like Narayan. We serve him like Narayan. We do puja to him like Narayan, right? And even though he's a sevaka of Lord, and Lord is the worshipable, but we serve him as like that. And we should be very clear in understanding his instructions, following his instructions, because he is sent by the Supreme Lord for us to be uplifted to the Goloka, right? And we should never think or get familiar with a spiritual master as an ordinary person. That is very, very, it will deviate from our path of spiritual life and is dangerous to our spiritual path. So these are the 11, 12, 13, 14 anarthas, and how to conquer them, very clearly explained in this 10 shlokas. We talked about spiritual master, his importance, Guru versus God, and what is a sannyasi, how sannyasi is very, is renouncing everything and helping all of us, is described in this. So the next section, the process of liberation of a householder, will be described in the next session in tomorrow. So that's what we discussed today. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Wonderful to see all of you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to study and read Bhagavatam, after a long time. Any comments, any questions? If you have, please, you can ask now. If not, we can conclude this today. Thank you very much. Prabhuji Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Panchakalptarabhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavane Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nanda Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Wonderful session.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.